Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm Beatty, and welcome again, my friends, to the Ask Beatty Show. We can work it out. If only this was a message that really went out to the majority of people in the world. We are so polarized in our society. And this is actually something that I'm going to be discussing later on in the show with my husband, Jim Bretos, who is a sociologist and criminologist and the host of a number of television shows. But the fact is that the mindset, we need to really seriously think about the consequences of not having a we can work it out mindset. Now, obviously, I'm a psychotherapist and a sex therapist, and that is my raison d'etre with my patients, whether or not they're coming in with their own individual issues or family issues or couple issues. I mean, I would hope that our mindset is such, especially if we really care enough, that we want to work out our problems and our differences in the best possible way so that we can actually come up with a win-win resolution rather than this, I'm right, you're wrong, you're a loser, I'm a winner. It is destroying us. It is destroying the fabric of society. It is also destroying families. And, when I think about it, when I was a little girl growing up in Winnipeg, Canada, if there were problems with children, with my little playmates, my parents and the other children's parents would try to find ways to help us work things out. And I kind of wonder what has happened with that really philosophy of thinking about collaboration and consensus and compromise and win-win resolution. And I don't know how you're doing in your own lives with your family members, perhaps, or colleagues, or politically, what your own mindset really is these days. And it's really something to think about. Well, what is the Ask Beatty show really all about? Well, we talk about, of course, mental health issues and relationships and sexuality and all of the things that we can actually learn and do to improve the quality of our lives and our relationships. I mean, this is a difficult time in our lives today. Of course, there have been many, many, many difficult times in people's lives, over the centuries, which is why every single week I ask you to do the same thing. I want you to take a very, very honest look at how well or how badly you're doing in terms of your mental health. And remember that we all go through so many ups and downs in our lives. However, if you're finding that your depression or anxiety or your marital issues or your problems at work are really just getting out of control, the most important thing that we really need to ask ourselves is, what to do, what to do. And what I've found over the years, of course, I've been practicing now, and I keep saying this for over 35 years. I can hardly believe it. And I have had the privilege, and I really do see it as a privilege, of treating thousands of men and women and children and adolescents of every single walk of life. And one thing that really hasn't changed is that people typically wait way, way, way too long when it comes to reaching out and asking for help. And, I'm hoping that with all of these self-help books and talks about relationships and, and discussions about therapy, that you don't see it as a weakness, but that you see it as a strength. Thinking about just getting a second opinion, a second opinion about your depression, a second opinion about your anxiety, a second opinion about the family issues or the relationship issues or the work issues. that you may be experiencing. And this is why I say all the time that I really do hope that you give yourself permission to reach out and ask for help and not wait, as most people typically still do, years and years and years, where people are living with a lot of inner turmoil that could really be addressed much, much, much earlier with good professional help. And what about your relationships, your personal relationships, your professional relationships, your political relationships? How are we doing? And again, nothing is perfect and no relationship is without conflict. But of course, the real question is, are you willing to deal? And hopefully you have people in your life who also have that we can work it out mindset. If we only just sat down and talked about differences and debated our differences. And this is a good thing. This is a really, really good thing. And I think that what can ultimately happen is that we can learn so much about the issues, so much about the person who we think we have absolutely nothing in common with or nothing to learn from. And we can also learn a great deal about ourselves. So again, looking at your mental health and looking at your relationships, and what about self-care? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating well? I mean, there's so much information out there. And I hear people say to me all the time, I know I should exercise. I know I shouldn't be drinking, or I know that I shouldn't be consuming so much sugar. And yet, it takes a lot of self-discipline. And I think also more than self-discipline, it takes a lot of self-love to be willing to do the things that are really and truly in your best interest. So this is why every week I'm asking you to just take an honest look at how are you living? Do you feel that you are on track? And if you're not, if you're finding, no, the depression is just getting out of control, my relationships are unhappy, and I've been talking about it for years, but I really don't know what to do. Are you willing today? And as my late father used to say all the time, it's true that, every day is a new day. Every single day we have an opportunity to pivot and really take an honest, hard look at how well or how badly we're doing in various different ways in our life and make some changes. And if you don't feel that you can do it on your own, then again, it's about getting a second opinion. And when you think about athletes, and I know I talk about this all the time, I mean, when I was competing as a junior and also, when I was older in the Canadian tennis world, I had a coach, and that coach happened to be my dad. That was it. We talked about diet, we talked about strategy, we talked about competition. And look at what has gone on in the world of sports, in the world of tennis, where the people have teams and teams of experts that are helping them reach their maximum level, which is why I say all the time, my friends, is that we do not need to navigate the ups and downs of life on our own. And I really and truly hope that you're able to take that in. So if we're looking at physical health and we're looking at mental health, I'm hoping that this week you're able to say to yourself, because it's not important, so much what I think. What's really important is that you're able to say to yourself, yes, I am on track. I am doing better, because it is our avoidance and our denial and our blaming the world and blaming ourselves and defensiveness that really continue to keep us in a downward spiral. And it does. It takes a lot of courage to be willing to acknowledge, address, and resolve as best as we can the things that are getting in the way of our life and our relationships. And yet, what are the consequences if we refuse to step up to the plate and confront our demons, old and new? It becomes increasingly difficult. And I know that many of you know this, to really live a happy and joyful life. So I hope this week, as I do every single week, that I have convinced you to do a little bit of introspection. And if you're finding that you're doing well, continue to do everything that is contributing to your well-being. And if you're not, to be able to figure out what to do, what would be the best next step to deal with my mental health issues, my relationship problems, my family problems, my substance abuse problems, etc. And again, this is a list, and this is a list that is really important about what the happiest countries in the world are doing, what they have found to really work. So they talk a lot about a Mediterranean diet, making time for regular exercise, including weight training and yoga and meditation, socializing regularly and consistently. And I'm not talking about socializing only on the internet. Sleeping 8 hours a night, taking short naps, turning off our devices. I know that people are on their devices morning, noon, and night, and it is really creating a lot of problems. And eliminating toxins in our diet. And I know that Dr. Garnell talks about this a lot. And of course, when I talk about toxins, I usually talk about toxic people. And for me, I have zero tolerance for toxicity in terms of human interactions. And remember, my friends, that a little bit of poison is still poison. So remember that. And we don't want poison in our life. We don't want poisonous people in our life, which does not mean that we don't want to sit down and try and work things out. But if you're finding that you're really going around in circles and that the relationships are really, really harmful in a variety of different ways, you have to give yourself permission sooner than later to really exit poisonous relationships. Other things that the happiest countries talk about: getting a dog, reaching out to support groups, eliminating alcohol. I mean, there's been some recent studies, that have been talking about even, one drink is harmful to our health. And of course, finding a purpose, finding a meaningful purpose every single day that will motivate you to get out of bed and to be able to give back. I think that's been one of the most wonderful things for me as a psychotherapist and sex therapist and an author, is feeling that purpose every day and being able to give back to people and hopefully help them to find better and happier ways to live. And remaining sexually active, whether or not you have a partner or not, it certainly does make a difference. And of course, if you're working, to try to find a way to maintain some kind of a balance between work and fun and love, because in the final analysis, and this is something, again, all the studies tell us, is that it is not about the bigger, better, more. It's not about the bigger financial portfolio. In the final analysis, it's really about connection, and it is really about love. And I think that that's something that we can try and convince ourselves otherwise, but finding loving relationships, supportive people, kind people, where you have mutuality and reciprocity and respect, and people who are willing and open to work out issues in a collaborative, civil, respectful way when issues, as they of course invariably do, they arise. Before I introduce my husband and guest, I just want to very, very briefly tell you about an article that was in the New York Times today, again, about exercise and how exercise fights anxiety and depression. And when it comes to mental health, most treatments for conditions like depression or anxiety come with caveats. We know that. We know about the side effects of so many different kinds of medications. And although cognitive behavioral therapy, is effective for many patients, for many it is not. But studies show that there is one strategy that seems to work for everybody, or at least for most people, and that is regular exercise. And decades of research have established that exercise has a positive effect on mental health. And in studies of patients with mild to moderate depression, for example, a wide range of exercise regimes have been shown to be as effective as medications like SSRIs. And moving regularly can improve sleep and reduce stress. And well, there's good evidence, the mental health benefits of exercise for about 45 minutes, 3 to 5 times per week makes all the difference in the world. I know myself, if I feel stressed or if I feel down, for me, of course, I've been an athlete all my life, so it's been really kind of second nature to actually know what I need to do to feel better. So, fortunately, Jim and I, we have a treadmill in the apartment, and I get on regularly, very, very regularly, and it makes all the difference. And also lifting weights and moving and even taking a short walk, it can and it does do wonderful things to mood boosting chemicals in our brain. So also most recent studies have found, and this is interesting, that consistent exercise can change the underlying structure of some brain regions. Isn't it true? You're feeling bad and then you move around and you exercise and it was like, oh my, what's happened? I'm feeling a lot better. And something else that I found very interesting in this New York Times article was that scientists haven't yet determined whether, for example, that running is better than lifting weights for improving mood. Yet there's some evidence that suggests that activities like yoga or Tai Chi are better for relieving symptoms of anxiety. It sort of slows things down. And this may be because these fluid, low intensity workouts often employ meditative or mindful techniques. And I have to say that for me, that has never been the way that it works for me. I need the intense exercises, but that more intense exercises, almost by definition, it increases stress level. But I have found, and there was a large 2023 study that backs me up, that high intensity workouts can be more effective at alleviating depression and anxiety. So I think the thing is it whether or not you're talking about high intensity or low intensity, we all need to start to move a lot more. Well, I am very happy, as I always am, to have my husband, Jim Bretos, join us. Jim is a sociologist and he is a criminologist, and he is the host of a wonderful television show, The Radical Imagination, on MNN Television. He is also the host of Real Talk in the Hamptons. And of course, if you listen to him here on the Progressive Radio Network, you are able to hear him every Thursday, right?
Thursday at 10.
Thursday at 10 on the Radical Imagination. Well, Jim, here we are again.
Here we are.
And I'm
I have to comment. I think what do you think? I need high intensity and high meditative as well, right? Both.
Both. Yes,
Yes,
we
okay.
all need
We
high.
all need high,
Yes, we
high
all need
attention.
high, and we all need low. And I think you should move your chair back a little bit so that
Okay,
we are going to be
got
able
it.
both to see each other. And I
How's
think
that?
maybe it would be better if I got another chair so that we were at the same level. But in any case,
Okay.
I'm really glad you're here. And
Thank you.
the reason why I wanted to really talk with you today
Hmm.
is that it just seems as if we're becoming more and more and more polarized in this country. And what I found, in fact, I was starting to write my Ask Beatty column for Dance Papers. I'm the advice columnist for Dance Papers in the Hamptons in New York City and Palm Beach, about what is happening with this. You're right, I'm wrong, you're a loser, I'm a winner. What it is doing for relationships. And with this kind, and I just want to make my commentary, and then I'm really interested in what you're going to have to say, is that it's becoming increasingly difficult, if not impossible, to maintain a happy and healthy relationship with anyone with this sort of mindset. And yet it seems as if people are becoming more and more polarized in their thinking and in their behavior, in their personal, professional, and political lives. And we are paying a huge price in needing to feel that we are always right. And we lose valuable opportunities to expand our thinking about issues and the other and ourselves. And look at what is happening, the killings, the murder, the right, the left. I mean, it is becoming more and more and more of a war, Jim.
Well, okay, where do we start? Um, well, this is nothing necessarily new historically. I mean, it certainly has accelerated with the technology, with the um, eh, global interaction that we experience. But again, human beings have always been sort of clannish, uh, group orientated, small group orientated peoples, often isolated from others. So it's taken us hundreds, if not thousands of years of civilization, so-called civilization, to bring us to the point where we've even begun to think of ourselves collectively, um, in a more inclusive way, that we need to think about things more globally, more universally, that when we hurt someone in this part of the world or ruin this part of the environment, it's hurting us all. So that's something that it's a hard lesson, but it's an absolutely necessary lesson to have. So again, extrapolating from that macro sort of way of looking at things, it has to be done also, as you're pointing out, among families, among individuals in relationships. Yeah.
Excuse me. I mean, I just find that more and more, or maybe, Jim, it's not more and more. Maybe it's just becoming more and more evident, and that people are talking about it more and more. Just the difficulty, the challenge of just having regular conversations.
Mm.
And not just talking about where are we going to go for dinner. I mean, there are going to be conflicts in every relationship,
Right.
political relationships, personal relationships, uh, family relationships. And yet I'm finding that the I think the skill level is
Mm.
a real issue, that people seem to not have the necessary skill.
Yeah.
They may also not have the mindset, but they certainly don't have the skill to be able to talk and go from A to B to C to D, with the goal being to come up with a hopeful win-win resolution.
Well, I think what you're also getting at is the need to start at a very, very early age, the process of, we put it, getting to feel what it's like to be that other person, to put oneself in that other person's shoes,
Empathy,
empathy, and
empathy.
so on. And children, by and large, do that very naturally. They love to play, to role play.
Right.
I'm this or that character, And so they learn to do that. And I think that our schools, our parents, our families need to cultivate that and to work on that because I think kids naturally want to do that. They want to become part of another person's world or feel what it's like to be that other person in a certain to a certain extent. And so we need to foster environments is basically what I'm trying to say here, both within the family, within our political institutions, within our economic institutions, within our educational institutions, and so on, where it's not them versus us, where that we learn to understand at an early age the nuances of life and of what other people might be feeling. And one of the reasons I love living in New York City, you've got it's a place where you are challenged continuously to understand people from very different backgrounds. And it's certainly, for me, certainly, as I know for countless others, it's a broadening experience. I think that's what we need to be able to do. But you're absolutely right. There is a reaction to that. There's a response to that. And we're in a period of time where there literally is a cultural war, is a war that is fostering more of that them versus us, whereas the other side, I think, is trying to expand our horizons and be more inclusive.
Look at the violence
Yeah.
that is occurring.
Mhm.
And I think this, you're a loser, I'm a winner, you're wrong, I'm
Mhm.
right. I mean, this rhetoric
Yeah.
seems to be more and more pervasive, and it's
Well, it's
really
certainly pronounced. It's certainly every single day we hear more of that, obviously. I don't have to tell our audience here, you, in our political world. A day doesn't go by, it doesn't seem like an hour goes by where we're being told of put downs on this or that group of people, or
right,
watch out for them, and new wars need to happen. We need to build up and build walls, and so on, and so on.
right.
And that's just not us. That's not just us, but it has sort of an effect also on other parts of the world since we are so powerful economically and militarily.
I find that I don't hear a lot of, even in my initial work with
Mhm.
people, of course, the people come to see me and there are couple issues and family issues, I try to help people, figure out ways to work it out. But I'm not hearing much, we can work it out kind of communication. I'm hearing,
It's your theme song, right?
of course,
Well, we're talking, yeah.
yeah,
We're
the
talking about the Beatles, right?
Beatles.
So that was what we were talking about in the 60s. We can work it out. And we
Absolutely.
still can. Yeah.
That we can work it out, mentality and philosophy and message. It's so important. And yet I am hearing less and less
In
of
your
that
therapy
in my
sessions
in
as
my
well.
therapy,
So
in
examples are,
in organizations.
yeah,
It's more the we're right, you're wrong.
yeah.
You're a winner, I'm a loser. It's more that than what do we need to do to come together and
So
see if
you as
we
a
can work out our
therapist
plan.
you come to that situation when people come to you, couples therapy.
Right.
One partner says to you, so give us a bit of an example of what you have to deal with and how you work with that
Well,
difficult
you
individual
see,
to open up and to,
that becomes, sort of an interesting challenge. But if people are willing to come in, if a couple is actually willing to come in
well, the
for
couple are
couple
there now.
therapy,
Somehow
then
one has dragged the other in, or however they
right.
made it.
So they're
Here they
halfway
are.
there. They're halfway there
They're
because they're
in your office.
usually in they're they're in my office. But it's about getting people to learn to communicate their feelings and to communicate their feelings well. It's not about screaming and yelling and insulting, and really getting people to hear what the other person
So you
is
start
feeling.
oftentimes typically with one partner saying to you, "Oh, wow, she does this, she does that, she does." So you have one side. Then what? What do you do? Then you hear the other side, and that side is maybe saying the same thing or similar things about that partner. So how do you begin the process of bringing of getting him to
But there's a
hear the other
there
and
is
begin that process of working together.
but there is a
Partnership.
question. But you see,
Yeah,
there is a question that I ask all the time. So, do you love each other? Yes,
that's what you start with. That's yeah.
no, what I do initially is I start at the beginning when everything hopefully was great. And then the couple takes me through their voyage and what happened. You know,
I see.
you got along so well for X number of years, communication was not a problem. What changed? Was it the birth of a child? Was it financial, problems,
Mhm.
political issues that people start to take a look at? What happened? But I like to begin.
What do people? How do people respond to that? Is it
They love it
they love it?
because
I bet,
they do because I take them back to when they were dating.
and they haven't probably
And
done that in a very long time.
that is
Yeah,
exactly true.
yeah.
When things were wonderful, I want them to go back. I want them to be nostalgic. I want them to remember when they really felt close, when they really felt connected. And then we take a look at, so what happened here?
Right.
What went wrong? What changed? And the biggest question, Jim, whether we're talking about politics or we're talking about relationships of any kind, is okay, let's talk about, so what do we need to actually do to help you to reconnect as a couple? What would need to happen, Joe Blow or Marianne, for you to feel less angry and closer to your husband or your partner? So you get people to think about, it's a problem solving exercise. It's not about blaming, it's not about bashing, it's about problem solving. What has to happen here?
Can I be a little bit of fly in the ointment here?
Yes,
Maybe.
of course.
Well, we live in a world where, of course, tens of millions of people follow political leadership that says, well, let's go back to that, to President Trump's vision, make us great again. Presumably, when we were more true Americans and
Whatever that
loved and
means,
so, well, no,
whatever
what
that
that they,
means.
well, that's a great, what does that mean?
For
But
each
a lot,
individual person, it could mean something very
well,
different.
and collectively, the dog whistles here. He's saying, well, when we didn't have quite the number of non-whites and immigrants
Right,
and so on, and when
right,
and da
right.
da 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 da. So what happens when you have people like that? Not just him, but you resonate with people who, yeah, you're right. Let's go back to when I was happier. But you know when I was happier was when unions weren't so
Well,
strong,
maybe that's the
when
way they
life
have,
was simpler.
but then maybe that's the way they need to live. Okay, if people prefer a certain kind of a lifestyle and they want the woman at home in the kitchen with the apron, if that's what the woman wants, and if that's what the family wants, and if that's what the marital couple want, then so be
Well,
it.
so be it.
So be it.
Absolutely, there's a choice.
Exactly,
But
exactly.
absolutely. Oh,
But this is
so
where, if we're talking about
yeah.
couples, so and relationships where there's conflict, I mean, people have to be able to sit down and talk with each other and express, I'm really hurt the fact that you are never around, or I'm really, hurt that I seem to be the sole parent, when
Mhm.
it comes to, our children. We need to have the
Sure, that
conversations,
makes a
Jim.
lot of
We need to
sense.
have the conversations.
But when those hurts are being heard by people that maybe the other side doesn't want to hear
Well,
from,
well,
then and not only that, you set up a system, a way of shutting down those people and
right,
not being able to talk about
right,
those historical experiences. Then you begin to have even greater friction, greater polarization,
right.
greater anger. So I'm not saying that happens in your individual therapy. It can,
It can happen, and
but
it's my role
right,
as a therapist
right,
to help people to learn to communicate well and figure out a problem solving, methodology that is going
right.
to help them deal with problem A, B, C, and D.
And maybe in fact that beginning wasn't all that great.
Maybe.
And maybe but still you do love each other and let's make it better now. that again, you're in
What do
a,
you need?
what do you need to
What do
do
you need
now?
from me? What
Right.
do you need from me now that will help you to feel more connected and less angry? I mean, these are the
So you're opening up possibilities
they're
of working together
ex
and building a new world together.
exactly,
But we're
exactly.
not doing that here
Exactly. And I
in this
remember just
country.
before, my first book came out, For Better, For Worse, Forever, Discover the Past, The Lasting Love. I mean, I was routinely interviewed by the media and the print and TV and radio. People asking me, so what are the most important ingredients that make or break relationships? And the fact is, it's not sexy, it's not romantic, but emotional communication and problem solving. If we can't talk, if we don't know how to solve problems, we can't have a relationship that's going to be healthy and wonderful and close.
Okay, Debbie Downer here again. We do have a great communicator here who does say and does resonate with a lot of people. I have the answer for you. You trust me. I have it. I'm going to make things better.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying this is not, I'm agreeing with what you're saying, but we also have people who resist that vehemently and try to turn back the clock and put us in a world where that is becoming harder and harder to do.
No,
And that's what you're trying to reach. And you're right, it's become more and more divisive,
right,
more and more polarized in certain ways,
right.
geographically, and
And
so,
religiously.
well, certain elements within
Yes,
that, again, we have to to try to look at the problem as specifically as we can, use the data. It's not because most people of a particular religion, let's say, whatever it is, Judaism, Catholicism, Islam, are not thinking that way. But yes, there are extremes on all of these in all of these religions and so on who
I
insist on thinking that
I
way.
just think
So
it's wonderful.
sometimes you can't even get to first base, even beginning to
Right.
open up any sort of, is that correct?
Yes, but I'm going to
Communication.
give you
Yeah.
and my audience a couple of really wonderful examples that happened. I had a woman who contacted me. She was actually referred by one of my current patients, and that she'd been estranged from her three adult sons for a very, very long time. And she was devastated. And yes, she had contributed to the problems in the family, and she had done a lot of crazy things, and it really, angered and disappointed and hurt her adult sons. But she was devastated that she had no contact with the sons and with her grandchildren. And we were, talking about, really what to do. And this has been going on. She had been in therapy with somebody else. Her sons had been in therapy, not with her, but they had their
For
own
years.
individual therapists for years. And this was going on for years and years. And I said to her, look, I said, you want to connect, and estrangement, unless, I mean, there's terrible, terrible things going on. I mean, estrangement is not beneficial for anybody, really. I mean, the idea being to try to see if we can work things out. So I offered to contact her eldest son.
Mhm.
And so I called him, and he was furious. He was furious with his mother. And at the end of the conversation, we talked about getting together with his mother to be able to talk about the history. There was a lot of painful history, to see whether or not maybe things could work out.
There's enormous, well, I guess you would call it, right, psychological resistance. That's a therapeutic
He
term.
to tell me
Enormous resistance.
he was furious. It was good.
Yeah.
He got it all out.
Resistance.
But
And again, why do you think there was such resistance?
oh, there had been neglect. There had been all kinds
So
of
some of it
craziness.
was justified and
Yes,
okay.
yes, yes. And there were
fearful.
a lot of things had gone on in this particular
Right.
family.
Okay.
And the mother, I think, instead of really owning things, she made a lot of excuses. And her sons were just turned off by the years and years of denial.
Mhm.
So then what I suggested, and so he said, yes, I'm open to, getting together with my mom and me,
Mhm.
and seeing whether or not we could, see if we could work something out.
Right.
So then I contacted son number two. He was furious with his mom. And at the end of that conversation, and I think his elder brother certainly helped. He said, "Yeah, I'm willing to see." Now, this was years of estrangement. We're not talking
Yeah.
about a month, or we're not talking about
5, 10 years.
It was probably, 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And now there is a third son who I have yet to contact. Apparently, I'm not sure whether he wants to talk to me, but it's certainly worth a shot. So the point being is
Yeah.
that I think basically most people want to try to work things out.
If you give
Certainly in
them
their
an
family.
opening and
Yes,
a sort of saving face and
exactly.
begin to understand what
Exactly.
they had been through.
That's where the empathy, giving people a forum, not shutting them down, not making them wrong. And I think that families and people would agree, if it's possible to work out serious family issues, couple issues, political issues, religious issues, that's the way to go.
Because
Rather,
beneath it all is a mountain of fears, in a
yes,
sense,
yes,
and rooted in many ways, sometimes in past histories.
right,
So how to be aware of that past history without that allowing that past history of hurt and trauma and misery
however.
take over your life now.
However, the past history and the traumas, and this is where I differ with cognitive behavioral therapy. In behavioral therapy, there is a place, therapeutically for these, different orientations. But people have to emotionally work through the past and the traumas, and to be able to, I take them on a journey,
Well, there
beginning at the
they need
beginning.
help.
They need help to be able to
Support
emotionally
and
process
right.
what did and didn't happen in terms of their trauma, whatever the trauma was, whether it was early child sexual
Right.
abuse.
Otherwise, they're walking around as festering wounds
Exactly.
about to explode.
Exactly. And I think that that's what we're probably seeing a lot of, is
Yeah.
that there is a lot of festering. There are a lot of things that individuals and collective groups have not emotionally worked through at all.
And by the way, I don't think those people, there's a lot of people, I think, in the category that we're talking about
Right.
here, who aren't necessarily wedded to either side of the political
Right.
agenda at this point.
Right.
I don't think, honestly, Trump has that much really a great support. I think what he has support for is these promises, these visions, these whatever rantings that he may have,
Right.
and that gives people, well, at least he's saying this, and boy, he's saying it in a way that the other side is not saying, and they're not really interested in me, and so on. So there's a lot of disgruntled people out there looking for, and evidently
A leader. They're
well,
looking for a leader.
or a way of okay, a way, but not just a leader, but a way of becoming recognized and being taken seriously,
Right.
and having the opportunities to develop and mature. And
Right.
that, hey, I do matter too. And this is what I want to do, and I'm interested in, and so on and so on. And that's the raising of a kid it's very difficult. The nurturing process that needs to happen. And so many people have not experienced
It's
it.
all
way you're
very,
talking about.
it's all very, very complicated, but I think that
And simple though.
the,
It is love and
the
nurture.
bottom line is that we have to be able to engage in conversation. We have to be willing, despite our differences, to sit down
Right.
and talk. Why is that so difficult?
Well, because in the heat of the moment,
right.
like Fiona Davis out in Oakland there, restorative justice, and she's working in the schools, and when the young kids, mainly men, the young boys are grappling with each other and getting angry, to slow it down, sit in a circle, calm down. Why are you, not in that tone? Why are you so angry? What's going on?
Well, that's important to explore. It's
sit down and start talking.
Yes.
Getting it out in a civil way. It's an enormously important learning experience.
And most of the sort of the political, anger that we're seeing, it has to do with, I believe, individuals' unfinished business and skeletons in their own closet. I really do. And here we now have the sort of cult where we can have all these angry people, coming together to bash this or to bash that.
Well, I would expand it to, I think there's a lot of things that we as a country still we have been making some progress, or did. We still have a ways to go to fulfill the promise for all our people in this country. So I think it's
For sure.
so I think it's individual. I think the country itself still has a ways to go in
Well,
fulfilling the promises
right.
that it can be.
Well, it's about caring. It's a caring mindset for all.
And then, as I
And
was saying at the very beginning, too, once we get that somehow in our cultural system, we have to begin to think that it's goes beyond us. It's a
absolutely,
world. We
it's
need to
a
have an
world.
inclusive
We
world
have to care about the
and the
world.
environment and so on. And so that's so we have people, some people who recognize that, other people who are saying, "Oh my goodness, forget that. We just want to be strong and not be bothered and put up walls and so on and have wars to put people down." So that increases polarization. We need, as you said before, a certain type of leadership, wisdom, if you will,
Wisdom,
of
right?
somebody that can understand those hurts and somehow
We're
put us.
also, Jim, Jim, we're people, didn't have to worry about how they were going to pay the rent. I mean, in Canada, as a Canadian, I mean, we have a guaranteed annual income. The healthcare system in Canada, I mean, it's not perfect, but at least, people don't have to worry about going to the doctor. I mean, as I say, it's changed certainly from the time I left Canada, which was in 1990. Uh, but people are struggling. I mean, I'm treating some young men in their 20s with degrees, and they can't get jobs.
That's
They
in
get jobs,
the
and
times today, the educated person with degrees
right,
are having, so,
they are.
but I think that then gets into an economic analysis that in a capitalistic system that is, as ruthless as ours has become, it plays on in to the needs of the rich and powerful to have people divided and have people struggling to make ends meet.
Well, people are really struggling. And a
Yeah,
patient of mine yesterday, she said to me, she says, "Are you aware that people can go on AI and they can get therapy?" So if
yeah,
yes, so maybe AI will become the therapist of the not just of the future, but of the present. And these chat box or whatever whatever they are, so that we're becoming more and more and more depersonalized and less connected. And if people are thinking that being online 20 hours a day and that they are having all of these real connections, I mean, we're seeing with the kids, I mean, we've never seen such levels of clinical depression and suicide ideation and actual suicide as well. So there's a lot that's off here. And yet, the real question always becomes, if something is off individually or in your family or in your relationship, what to do, what to do. Is there a mindset of, let's try and work it out?
well, that's what
We can
you're
work it
talking
out.
about, establishing a therapeutic safe place
Right.
where that learning and that nurturing and that healing
Yes.
can happen.
Right.
And I think
Right.
that's absolutely crucial. I think we need
Right.
it in many other ways in
Right.
our schools,
Right. Right.
all over the
Right.
place. But that's a start.
Right.
It's
I had a wonderful thing happen. I had a father contact me last week who I actually met on Zoom. And he has a son, a 30-year-old son, who's been in and out of psychiatric settings, from the time he was 12 years old, who hates therapists, who does not want to have anything to do with the mental health field. Uh, the good news, the son, I had sent him an email saying I was really looking forward to meeting him and really looking forward to seeing what we could do together. So the good news, after the son said he would never see anybody again, uh, father and son are actually going to be driving to East Hampton this week to meet with me. Again, the we can work it out mentality. And I was so excited about this because this is a boy, apparently a young man who's had significant problems and was done with the psychiatric world.
Well, that's
So it was,
your unique personality and skill.
well, I
it's
try,
and this is what we need to begin this process. I know we're trying to do that in a variety of ways on my own show with people that we're in touch with.
Exactly.
So all you can do is keep trying.
It's about keeping trying. And then I was thinking about another, and this is not about how great Beatty is, but I had a patient yesterday who has been estranged from her mom for years and years. I mean, there's been some initial contact. And this young woman, she's 65 years of age, and the mother is 90, and there aren't going to be a lot of years left. Mother categorically refused to come in. And I said to my patient yesterday, I said, look, she's 90 years old. Let's give it another shot. Give her a phone call. Tell her you're with me, and let's see. And the mother is coming in.
Isn't it interesting the way that you're describing this? Over and over, these examples today have been of estrangement.
Yes,
of banishing the other.
Yes, banishing the
and
other.
the misery that causes, and the need to somehow make it okay to love again and to connect again, to pivot.
Yes.
That's a good word.
Yes.
And when that happens or begins to happen, it's interesting. I would point out that it'd be surprising how people are more open than we would imagine to this.
We're happy. I mean, it was so interesting with the woman's sons, the two sons, with his 90-year-old mother, with his 30-year-old son who hates all therapists, and I can understand he's had some horrible therapy over the years, from what I understood. But this is where I think, and I have to say, my competitive tennis background comes in, and my dad's philosophy of never giving up. So you have to figure out, a new strategy.
You use that strategy to bring people together.
Yeah.
That's when you're playing tennis. The idea is to be not in therapy, but to beat them. So it's a little different.
Well, it's different. Yeah.
Well, you got to win. But you're trying to create a win-win.
This is a win-win, and what do you have to do? You need a coach, okay? Let's say that may be me or another therapist. You need to re-examine your strategy. If your strategy,
listen, I've seen you play tennis. You're not saying it's a win-win thing. It's win.
Yes.
All right. So,
but of course, that's different. But you have to re-examine your strategy. You have to really adopt a new mindset. Let's say you're down. I mean, I was certainly down in many tournaments in my life. It didn't always come back and win, but you have to sort of rework your mindset again. But the bottom line, Jim, is about never giving up. Never giving up, that there are new possibilities every single day in our life to do things better.
And that's a wonderfully optimistic, I think, way of putting it in these very dark times. And of course, we're just a couple of days away from
the Jewish New Year.
Well, that, and I was also thinking about the assassination.
Yes.
Which is, again, been another traumatic experience.
Yes.
Another polarizing experience.
Right.
Where we've had all kinds of rhetoric.
Right.
I'd have to say, mainly on the right here, about looking for
a scapegoat.
Literally more than the scapegoat. Some even calling for some sort of war here. I mean, this is nuts.
Yeah.
This has got to stop. This cannot be tolerated, and we need to have whatever we can do to make sure that our differences don't become this violent, even though it does happen more than we want to admit.
Yes.
Politically, and I think you'll find it also taking the form of domestic violence too.
Well, yes, absolutely. But there are a couple of things that have to happen. We need to care. We need to care about mending relationships.
Yeah.
that mindset has to be there before anything is going to happen. If we don't care, and
Well,
if we want to destroy the other, then
well, I have to
we
say
can't talk.
this. I have to
We
say
can't
this for
talk.
our audience and you is we do have leadership that, in fact, and he has said in his own words, he is not the president for
That is right.
everybody.
That
He
is
doesn't
right.
care.
So
Right.
exactly.
So
That is
we
true.
have to do that
That,
work ourselves.
that's
It makes
absolutely
it
true.
more difficult, but you know
That's
what?
true.
We can
That is,
do it.
yes.
We can work it out.
Yeah, we can
And
work.
if he can't,
Yes,
if
we can
he
work it
can't
out.
do it, then that's his issue. And we have to,
Well,
it affects us,
it
but
sure does.
we have to overcome. We
Yeah,
shall
we
overcome
shall overcome.
even this.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think, I know we'll be able to do this.
yeah. It's complicated, isn't it?
It is, but
It
it's
is.
also, I think what you touched on over and over again with these examples is that with good faith and some
Expertise
goodwill
and
and
expertise,
and love
expertise.
and empathy,
Yes,
as the Beatles and you were saying, we can
yes,
work it out.
yes,
And it takes love and caring
yes, it does. It does. It does.
for the other,
Right.
which begins with love and caring for yourself.
Yeah,
And that was,
exactly.
you got into bringing it full circle. When I came in about all the exercise and
Right.
being intense, intense workout and so on, and meditative and so on. Care for
Yeah.
yourself,
Care
but don't
for
become
yourself.
narcissistic about it. But
Yeah,
use that
yeah.
inner strength and the physical strength and your health to reach out to others and be that beacon of light.
And I'm not sure that, I mean, actually, I am sure that most people don't have the skill to be able to deal with conflict. No, Jim, they
Well, no,
don't.
but
They don't have the skill.
well, I think, look, then they need to
Want to get the
they
skill.
need to, yeah, want to get
They
it,
want to get the
and they
skill.
need to work with the various institutions that we've set up to help bring that about. And I think it again starts in the home. If you're not going to get it at home, then my God, you gotta make sure that they're getting it at the schools.
Well,
The teachers. So
just
find a teacher.
hopefully, yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
find one or two teachers
Right.
that and there are more than one or two. So you know, some people are at a disadvantage in the sense that they need to find these people more than others,
No, it's
but it can
actually,
be done.
yes, I be a theme, and we have 2 minutes remaining here on the Ask Beatty show. You know, the we can work it out theme. I think that should be a banner. Wouldn't that be great in schools? You would get kids to think about, gee, there's a problem here with little Mary or little Peggy Sue or little Johnny. What do we have to do to work things out? So listen, thank you.
Listening.
Thank you all,
Yes.
as always,
Okay.
for coming.
Thank you
For coming on the show.
Thank you.
So everybody, I hope this has been something that's been helpful and that you will take some of the things that we've been talking about to heart. And I say that every single week, and that I hope that there is some little thing that I say that can make a real positive difference in your life. And I want to leave you with my 2 weekly messages, the same weekly messages that I've been giving here on the Ask Beatty show for 14 years, which I cannot really believe. The first is that we have to do everything possible to be living our life in ways that are in our best interest, to be good to ourselves, to monitor ourselves. And of course, I ask my patients all the time to make sure as they go through their days that they ask themselves the question, is this good for me? And to not do things that are self-sabotaging and self-destructive. And of course, as Jim and I have been talking about, we all need to do a much, much, much better job in learning to get along, to talk, to be willing to discuss, to debate, and to develop some empathy and understanding for the other. It would make such a difference in the world. It would make a difference for ourselves. It would make a difference, for all of the wars and all of the conflict that is going on in the world today. So again, be good to yourself, and let's think more about how we can come together and how
And
we
watch
can
the children who do that
Right.
more often than we know. Watch the
Right.
play. they do take the role of the
Right.
other.
And I hope that we will be able to spend more time thinking about working things out rather than destruction. So
Right.
have a good rest of the day, everybody. Thanks so much again, Jim.
Yep.
We'll see you next week and every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the Ask Beauty Show, right here on the Progressive Radio Network. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good day.